Hello and welcome to the Body Bliss Essential Pilates Mat class. Before we start, I just need to give a few gentle warnings. This class will involve coming down to the mat, so if you don't feel comfortable coming to the floor and rising from the floor again, please refer to one of our other classes. Also, if you have any injuries or conditions that may affect your performance of any of the exercises, please feel free just to leave them out. During the class, I will be guiding you through with verbal cueing, so it will be quite talkative. If you would prefer to watch the exercises through first and then do them through with my vocal cues afterwards, that might be a way of guiding yourself through the class. The only thing you will need is a mat or other supportive equipment on the floor, and possibly a few pads or books just to either sit on or to stabilise the head. We're going to start the class in a standing position, and we're starting with our Pilates breathing. So we want to feel when we're standing that our weight is placed evenly both forward and back over the feet, as if you were pressing gently into soft sand. We're lifting through the abdominal wall and down through the posterior hip to stabilise the pelvis in a vertical alignment, being careful not to let it tilt under or forward. And in this position, we're breathing in through the nose and out through pursed lips. The breath is long and controlled, feeling it into the base of the rib cage. So each time you breathe out, we want to engage the deep abdominal muscles, tightening around the waist, between the rib cage and the pelvis, almost acting like a belt or a girdle, tightening here as you breathe out. And we're going to include the roll down to the mat. So as you breathe in, let the head drop forward. And as you breathe out, engage the abdominals. The weight of the head leads you, allowing your knees to soften gently, just so there's no tension into the lower back. In here at the bottom, and then you push from your feet to initiate the roll up. The head and the eyes coming up last. So breathing in, dropping the head. Breath out, just engaging those deep abdominals. Allow the knees to soften. In at the bottom here. And then breath out, slowly rolling up, stacking each vertebrae of the spine as you come back up. Just 2 more times in here. Let the weight lead the movement. Try not to force yourself. Keep it smooth and fluid. And remember to only go as low as you feel comfortable with going. Breath out on the recovery. In to drop. Out to bend forward. In at the bottom, and then out to recover. And we'll place the right hand on the right side of your pelvis, reaching the left arm up. This time as you breathe out, we want to feel as if we're lengthening the way through the left side of the body, and then coming up, changing hands. Feel as you lengthen through the right side of the body. And up. So the breath in is to lift. The breath out, we're reaching away with the fingertips, trying to lengthen rather than collapsing into the underneath side. Changing hands on the in-breath. Breath out. And in. When we take the arms to fold, below shoulder level, try not to take any tension here into the shoulders, And we're going to spiral the torso around to the right and softly pulse for 2, 3, and then come back to centre on 4. Then softly pulsing left, 2, 3, centre on 4. Let your eye lines scan the room at eye level, so you're not looking down at all. 3, and back on 4. And then all the way around to the left, 2, 3, and back on 4. Just let the shoulders lift and then they fall away. It's a melting movement rather than a harsh drop. Allow them to melt away here. 2 more times, floating and melting away there. 1 more time, lift and allow them to melt away. And we come to the end of the mat and we're going to roll down 1 more time. So as you breathe out, let the weight of the head lead the way. Allow the knees to soften and then gently walking forward, and we come into the kneeling position. Now on all fours, check that your hands are in line with your shoulders here. You haven't got them too far forward. And that the hips are directly over the knees. We're lengthening away through the crown of the head and out through the pelvis. And we're coming into an exercise called cat stretch. So we take a breath in to prepare. As we breathe out, we pull the tail under, allowing the head to drop forward and arch high into the cat stretch position. Breathe in here at the top. As you exhale, the pelvis comes back to that neutral alignment, parallel to the floor here, and you're lengthening out as if you were sitting on a chair, but a chair that's tilted forward. Breath out, drawing the pelvis underneath you, allowing the head to drop. And then breath out again to recover back to neutral. Just 2 more times here. Use the exhalation to really contract up through the abdominals, flexing the spine here. And the next exhalation to lengthen back to neutral. 1 more time, breath out, tail underneath you. Head forward, flexing through the spine, and then releasing back to the neutral position here. So the next exercise, we come onto the back into the supine position, and we want to make sure we set up correctly here. The neutral position has the pelvis flat on top, so that you have your natural lumbar curve. The lordosis of the lumbar spine is a natural part of the shape of the human spine. So we don't want to always allow it to be flattened. We start from this neutral alignment with the hips relaxed. Your feet are a little bit narrower than your pelvis and parallel to one another. With the arms down beside you, we take a breath in to prepare, and as we exhale, we draw the pelvis back, lengthening the lower back till it flattens. Then you peel your tailbone off the mat, lower back and pelvis here, taking breath in at the top, and then as you exhale, feel as if you soften through the ribs first, then through the lower back, and then to the pelvis. In here at the bottom. Breath out, drawing the abdominals back, lengthening, peeling up here. Taking a breath in at the top, and then rolling slowly through ribs, lower back, and pelvis. And I'm just going to lift my arms so you can see the action here. The pelvis underneath you peels up first. Be careful not to push straight up. Try and feel that you articulate through the spine like a caterpillar rolling up and down on the twig. One more time. Breath out, lengthening the lower back, peeling up, and then slowly rolling down through ribs, through lower back, and through pelvis there. And at this point, you may want to take a pad, just a simple pad, or if you can't find one, a soft back book is also a good alternative. Just to stabilise the head here in the neutral alignment in the neck. And we're going to begin an abdominal preparation exercise that will lead us into the Pilates hundreds. So in this position, we float the arms parallel to the floor and we allow the head to nod forward, as if you are holding something soft under your chin. And we reach forward, lifting the shoulders and the upper back. And the eye line is through the thighs here. And then as you breathe in, allow the torso to just gently sink down. Again, use the breath, lifting it up and forward here. And then breath in, to release back down. Breath out, lifting up and forward here. And in, to release back down. So one more plain out breath, lifting up and forward here. And then in, to release back down. And if you have any tension in your neck, just allow the head to roll from side to side, to release the neck there. And we're going to take that exercise now into the Pilates 100s. We will split this up into segments. So if you feel you can keep going, you might want to just work through the entire exercise while we're doing this. So we float the arms to parallel to the floor. We lift the upper body forward. And here we start moving with the arms up and down as if you were patting water. But think of sending out ripples rather than splashes. We're breathing in for 5 and out for 5. In for 5 beats. And out for 5 beats. In for 5 beats. And out. In for 5 beats. And out there. We're just going to release down for a second and float the right leg to table. And now we're floating the arms and lifting the upper body. And we go into the 100 with one leg in table. In for 5 and out for 5. So the breath and the arms coordinate here. Breathing in for 5 and out for 5. In for 5 and out. In and out. Releasing down, and we're floating the left leg to table. Remember, if any time you feel the tension in the neck, allow the head to rock from side to side. So we float the arms, lifting the upper body forward, and we come into the breath pattern. Now keep the eye line looking through the thighs here. If at any time you feel the head start to drop back, looking at the ceiling, you may want to bring the upper body down, because that normally means you're fatiguing in the muscles that support the neck. Last 5. And breath out there. Now, the next variation is the most challenging. So if you do find having both legs in the air is too stressful, particularly on your lower back or pelvis, stay with the feet down or alternative single legs. So we're float right, float left, floating the arms, lifting the upper body forward here. Breathing in for 5 and out for 5. And as I said earlier, if you're quite experienced and feel that you can sustain this position, use it throughout the 100 exercise. And for those who are a little more advanced, taking the legs away, keeping that pelvis held in its neutral alignment. In for 5. Out for 5, in for 5, and out. Bend the knees in, catch the back of one leg, and just use that to gently bring yourself up to sit in. And we come into an exercise called half roll back. We're going to start with the torso flexed forward. So reach the arms forward, but allow the shoulders to fall away. Head between the arms here. Taking a breath in. As you breathe out, feel the pelvis roll underneath you. You can feel the sit bones here changing on the mat, and you just allow the body to only go back as far as you can comfortably support it. And then breath in, coming forward over the legs. So a long exhalation, rolling back. It's almost as if you scoop the abdominal wall. And breath in to come forward. Breath out. Rolling back here. And in. To come forward. Breath out, rolling back. Remember, only take it as far as you can control it. If you have problems with your lower back, you might want to just take it back to the point where there's no tension in the spine itself. Or if you feel strong enough, you can roll almost to the mat and come forward. One last time, rolling back and recovering forward there. And we're just going to take one leg, and you can use that to retard the roll down, and we're releasing into the leg circle. Now we're lengthening the leg up to the ceiling. If you're quite tight in your hamstrings and you find that you can't bring the leg vertically, keep the knees soft. Don't feel like as if you have to fully stretch here through the knee if it restricts the movement in the hips. Now the arms are close to the body here, and we're going to draw a circle or a circular movement with the leg. If you picture it, the leg is going round the side of a conical shape, like a martini glass. We breathe in as it goes in and away, out as it goes out and up to the top. Keep the pelvis here very stable, and the breath here is a little quicker. It's a little, almost as if you sip the air, out as you come up, in, cross and away, out, up and in. One more time, cross, away, out and in. Then we reverse it, going to the side and away, crossing the centre and lifting. And the pelvis here is really still. The movement comes just from the hip, side, away, cross and lift, side, away, cross and lift, side, away, cross and lift. Bend the leg in to the floor and just slide it away, and make sure that your pelvis is level here, that you haven't hitched the hip up on the working side. And then we bring the left leg in, taking it up to the ceiling, remembering to keep the knees soft if stretching the leg restricts the movement in the hip. And we start with the inward circle, crossing, away, out to the side and lift. And the size of the movement here is really dependent on how well you can stabilise the pelvis. You can make it a little bigger if you feel comfortable with keeping the pelvis stable, but never make it too large if you're allowing your hips to rock from side to side and up. Then we reverse the direction, side, away, cross and lift, side. And that little sipping breath here, breathing in on the first half and out on the second, in on the first half, out on the second. Last time, first half, out on the second. Bend the leg in here and then just place it to the floor. And after that exercise, to release your lower back, we allow the knees to fall to the side and the head to turn to the other direction. As we breathe in, we recover through the centre, and then breath out, legs to one side, head to the other. Make this soft and fluid, feeling your lower back just releasing here. And then back up to centre. Last time, releasing the lower back. Back up to centre here. And from there, we're going to come into the single leg stretch. So we're going to float the legs, bringing the hands to the shins. Now, the upper torso will lift forward here. If at any time you feel that this causes too much strain, please feel free to lower. We're transferring the hands to one leg. So left hand will come to right knee, right hand will go down towards the left foot, and we lengthen the right foot, and we lengthen the left leg away. So as we breathe in, we change the hands. Opposite hand to knee, same hand to foot. In to change, and out to stretch. In to change, out to stretch. In to change, out to stretch. In to change, out to stretch. Now we're drawing into your centre, lengthening through the front of the hip, drawing the thigh in to stretch the posterior hip. Each movement slow and controlled, in and out to change. Try and keep the legs as parallel as you can. Mine do turn out a little bit, so if you can keep your legs a little more parallel, that lengthens through the posterior hip more evenly and out to change. Bring both legs in, release the legs in, head down, and just rock any tension out of the neck here. And from there, we're going to come into the single straight leg stretch or scissor exercise, So we'll lift the legs up to the ceiling and we climb the tree, lifting the head, the shoulders and the upper back. Remember here to keep the eye line forward. Be careful not to let the head drop back. Holding on to the right leg, this time we lower the left away with control. Now if you need to keep the top knee slightly bent, that's absolutely fine, but the lowering leg stays straight. In to change hands, out to lower away. In to change, out to lower away. In to change, out to lower away. In to change. Keep it controlled, don't let the leg drop. It really comes down, reaching away to the tips of the toes with controlled movement. The controlled movement, reaching away here. And back up. One more time here. And back up there. Bend the knees as you release the body down. Feet to the floor, bringing the fingertips together just behind the base of the skull. We're going to lift the upper torso, and we're doing a variation on the oblique or crisscross exercise. Peel the back of your left shoulder off the mat and spiral the body strongly around to the right here. Be careful not to bring the elbow across. Keep the elbow back in line with the shoulder and then releasing to position here. So we're lifting up and forward, spiraling around to the left. So the back of your right shoulder peels and then coming down. Lifting up and forward, spiral round to the right. Hold this strong position before you release back down. And lift, spiraling round to the left and back down there. Just 2 more times each side. Lift, spiral to the right. Remember, don't be tempted to think of pulling the elbow across. Peel the shoulder on that left side and then coming back down. Lifting, peeling the shoulder on the right side, being careful not to bring the right elbow forward, keeping it open here, and back down. 2 more, lifting, rotating to the right here, and releasing down, and lifting, rotating to the left. Releasing down there, and we'll catch the back of one of your thighs. Just use that to lift the body up to vertical. Now we're coming into spine stretch forward. In this exercise, we want to articulate through the spine with the pelvis in a vertical alignment. So you might find doing it with the legs straight causes you to sit back onto your sit bones here. There are 2 ways you can deal with this. Either keeping both legs slightly flexed or alternatively sitting up on a pad. So I'll just show you this version. With the pelvis elevated, you can get up onto the sit bones. Now the pelvis stays vertical here. If you imagine you're lifting from your pubic bone up through your abdominals and the spine flexes over the abdominals here, so you can really feel the back arch into position, and then the spine stretch is coming up, lengthening through the crown of the head, growing each rep. So as we breathe out, we arch the back over here. Really feel as if you're arching over your abdominal wall, which lifts underneath you. Now, if you feel comfortable without the pad and with the legs straight, they're just a little bit wider than your mat. We breathe out with that same feeling of lifting through the abdominals as the spine flexes here. And then make sure you do return to the vertical position. One more time. Flexing through the spine. Forward and over. And then returning tall onto the sit bones here and relaxing from there. And we're going to go from this into the saw exercise. So I'll take the sword facing off the mat here so you can see the rotation through the body. The legs once again can be bent, you can be sitting on the pad if you find that you're tilting into a posterior position or coming into a posteriorly tilted position. Here we spiral towards the leg as you breathe in, and the little finger of your hand cuts across the foot as you reach as far forward as you can, pressing the opposite hip back. Breathing in to come back up to vertical and out to come centre. In to turn to the opposite direction. Now, as you breathe out, lift through the abdominal wall, press the opposite hip back and try and cut across your foot with the little finger and backs and rotate to centre. Breath in to rotate, breath out to reach forward, pressing the opposite hip down, into recover, out to centre, in to rotate, breath out to reach forward, in to recover, out back to centre. One more time each way, in to rotate, out to reach forward, in to recover, out back to centre, in to rotate, out to reach forward, in to recover, out back to centre. And from there we're going to come into the first of our exercises in a prone position, lying forward on your mat. Now when we do this, I normally advise using a pad under the forehead here, just to stabilise the neck. So we come down into position, laying prone on the mat. You'll want to have your feet a little wider than your hips. If you feel here in the front of your pelvis is lifting off the mat, you might want to put little pads under the front of the pelvis here. But if the front of your pelvis will sit onto the mat here, that's absolutely fine. It wouldn't be necessary. Start with the arms quite open, away from the body. We don't want the arms in too tight because it's going to tend to restrict the shoulders. Feel as if you lengthen out through the crown of your head and your tailbone along the mat here. As you breathe in, float the head and engage the muscles here into the glutes. And then we start just by peeling the rib cage off the floor. So we're working here through the thoracic spine, the part of the spine the ribs join to. And as you come down, lengthen your body along the floor. Feel as if you're trying to stretch your spine further out. You might need to nudge the pad. So breath in to float the head, engaging the glutes. Breathing out, lifting the rib cage here. In here at the top, and then breath out to lengthen along the mat. Now, if you feel that you can lift a little higher, bring the hands back. Remember, only lift as high as you feel comfortable. Floating the head, engaging the glutes. We peel the ribs and the abdominal wall. Now, as soon as your abdominal wall comes off the mat, feel as if you're trying to lift through the navel to support and stabilise that lower back. Then as you come down, once again, lengthen out along the mat rather than simply falling down to it. Again, floating the head, engage those glutes, peel ribs and abdominal wall. Take a breath in here at the top, and then lengthening out along the mat. Now the final variation, we can take the hands back a little further if you feel you can articulate your spine into a more vertical position. Now, don't worry if you can't. Remember, just work within the compass of your own body. We float the head, we engage the glutes. We feel the ribs, the lower back, and then the top of the pelvis lift. Make sure that the glutes and the abs are holding to support the spine here. And just turn the head gently from side to side. Check you're pressing your shoulders away from the ears. If it's restricting your neck, you might need to come a little bit lower so that you can keep your shoulders down. And last time, we lengthen out along the mat, growing taller till the head rests down. And just to release the spine, hands onto the mat, we sit back into the shell position, stretching forward here, over the legs. If you can, the head comes down to the floor, but you just want to allow the spine to relax. And then coming back up. From there, we're going to turn over to do the bridge exercise. So normally with the bridge exercise, we wouldn't use a head pad because we're going to be lifting the pelvis into the air. However, if you find that your neck is in excessive extended position, you might want to just have a thin pad to preserve the line of the neck. Although if you do feel any pressure into the cervical spine here when the pelvis lifts, please just lose the pad. So we start like we did the hip roll earlier. We've got the feet narrower than the pelvis, the knees vertical, the pelvis starting flat. Now I'm going to move my arms out the way for this exercise, but if you feel more comfortable with doing so, I would advise keeping the arms down. In this position, instead of rolling through the back, we're trying to brace around the centre and feel the glutes engage and push into the feet to lift the pelvis straight up into the air. Now, this is the more difficult movement, the more challenging movement. We want to fold in the hips to lower the pelvis down without collapsing through the lower back. So here the line of the body stays the same as you lift, taking a breath in at the top and then breath out as you lower. In here at the bottom, engage those deep abdominals, but push into the feet to lift the hips up so you can feel a good strong engagement in the posterior hip and thigh, and the spine hasn't changed shape. And we're going to challenge this just a little more at the top here. Lifting up. Feel the weight transfer onto your right foot. Now, if you feel confident with doing so, let the left leg just float, keeping the pelvis level. Place the left foot down. Feel the weight transfer onto the left foot. Floating the right leg to table. Placing the right foot down. And then lower the pelvis in one movement. There. Catching the back of your leg and using it to come up to position. And we're coming into spine twist. So in spine twist, you can sit either with your legs folded, sitting up on the pad, or with the legs straight, sitting on the mat. The important thing is to keep the pelvis vertically aligned. What we want to avoid is sitting in a roll back position. So I'll start with the legs crossed, and we're floating the arms in line with the shoulders. As we breathe out, we twist round to the right with a soft pulse for 3, and then in to come back. And then we rotate round to the left. 2, 3, and back. Keep the eye line at eye level. 2, 3, and centre. And you want to feel as if you're spiralling around this long axis that passes vertically through the body. And it's the ribs here that are really rotating, and back to the side. Rotating left. 2, 3. And if you feel comfortable with having the legs forward, 1, 2, 3, and back to the centre. 1, 2, 3, and back to centre there. And from there, we're going to come down into the Sidekick exercises. So there are several positions you can have your arms here. You can have the traditional position with the arm either extended out, or if you feel comfortable with doing so, on the elbow. Now if you do come into the elbow, we want to keep the shoulder here pressed away from the ear and the support through the side of the body rather than just lounging into it. If you feel you need some head support, you can put the pad between the head and the arm, or if the arm is restricted in the movement in the shoulder, you can bring the arm forward and have the pad supporting the head here. So do make sure you feel comfortable with this side lying position. When we are side lying, the gap between the pelvis and the ribs here should remain long. We'll just bring the underneath, the left leg forward, float the right leg parallel to the floor, and we're flexing the foot as we push forward for 2, and then lengthening back behind you for 2. Pushing forward, 2, lengthening back. So there's no movement here in the pelvis. If you need to use the hand to support you at the front, that's perfectly okay. We're trying to keep the action restricted to the hip and the ankle here. Flexing the foot as it comes forward, and then extending behind you there. Flexing as it comes forward, and extending behind you there. The legs staying parallel to the floor, and extending behind you there. Flexing as it comes forward, extending behind you there. Bring the legs in line, and we'll just do the side one circle. So the leg just lifts. It won't lift very high here because the pelvis comes into contact with the outer part of the thigh bone. Lifting it too high will distort the line of the pelvis and the spine. So you want to keep the pelvis neutral, and you'll feel that there's a natural limit to the height here. We're drawing little circles. One breath to each circle. Starting circling outwards. 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then back the other way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 there, and allow the leg to fall. And we'll swing round to the opposite direction, or you can just roll over to the other side. Once again, set your head and your upper body in position. Bring this time the right leg forward, just to help stabilise. Floating the left leg parallel to the floor. And we flex as we push forward and point as we stretch back. Keeping the pelvis here as level as possible, reaching out to the tip of the toe. Forward, 2, and extending behind you there. Forward, 2, and extend behind you. And when you're doing this exercise, you can actually work the feet here as well. Pressing all the way out to the toes, pulling all the way back. So feel as if you go through your metatarsals and toes as you stretch back. Just 2 more here. Forward and pointing back. Pull the toes up and then stretch them away as you go back. Legs in line, keeping the pelvis level, lift just as high as it will go without the pelvis tilting. And then we circle outwards. 2, 3, 4. Stabilising from the centre as you do so that we're working against the weight of the leg. 1 more, then back the other way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and lower. And we're coming back to another prone exercise, the swing exercise. So we're putting the pad back under the forehead here. And we're going to start with the arms reaching forward. Now when you do reach your arms forward, don't think of having them so close to the cheek that the shoulders lift. Particularly for gentlemen, but also for ladies. If we bring the arms too close to the side of the head, the shoulder blade tends to elevate and we get this impingement in the shoulders. We're holding the shoulders back as much as we can while reaching out to the fingertips. And in this position, we're engaging through the glutes and a little lift of the navel. Feel it almost as if you're trying to lift the navel into the spine, and we're going to float the right leg and the left arm, lifting the upper body, and then release them down. And then float the left leg and the right arm, and the body just lifts here, and then gently releasing down. Right leg and left arm, lifting here as you breathe out, and breathe in to lower down. Left leg, right arm, floating here, and releasing down. Again, right leg and left arm. And release, floating down. Left leg and the right arm. Reach out to the tips of the fingers, but don't let the shoulders follow. Long through the arm, but stable through the shoulders. Relaxing down. Now, if you find that that is as much as you feel comfortable with doing, stay with the alternate arm and leg lifts, lifting the torso gently here. For those who feel a little bit stronger, we're going to lift both ends, but it's really important here to make sure that you've got the gluteal connection. Otherwise, we tend to feel the weight into the lower back. So we start with the glutes and the abdominals gently engaging here, and we float both ends. And now we do little alternate flutter kicks with the arms and legs. Breathing in for 5, and out for 5, and in for 5, and out for 5, in for 5, and out for 5, in and out. Bring the arms in, and sit back into the heels, just to reach and release through the back here. And rolling slowly up. If you find any tension there in your neck, just gently allow the head to fall from side to side with a light pressure on the opposite shoulder. And in this position, we're going to sit on the left side of your pelvis with both legs tucked in underneath you, to go into the mermaid side bend prep. The alignment of your right arm is quite important here, as it will be taking a substantive amount of weight. So you want to be careful that it's not behind, the hand isn't behind you. It's going to be slightly forward here, almost in line with the knee, so that you can press up, reaching over the side here. And then as you breathe out, you lower back down. Now, if at this stage you need to adjust the alignment of your arm by moving your hand, please do. So that as you breathe out and lift up and over, the shoulder is directly in line with the wrist. And then releasing down as you breathe in. Breathe in to lift. And out to release. One more time, breathing in to lift. And out there to release. And we change sides, and you can just gently release your shoulder if you need to here. Tucking both legs underneath onto your right arm. Again, the alignment of the hand is in front of the shoulder here. And we're lifting up as we breathe in and out as we breathe out. Now the arm here draws an arc around the body, not collapsing down into the side, but really reaching through the ceiling, up and out, and down there. Just two more this side. Lifting up and over, down and away. One more, lifting up and over, and down and away. And we're coming to the last of our principal exercises, which is the press-up movement. Now, when you do press-ups, we want to make sure that the shoulder girdle remains stable. So the alignment of the arms and the hands will vary from person to person. You adjust your alignment so that the action feels natural to your shoulder, whether it's coming in close to the body or whether it's opening away from the body. The shoulder girdle here must stay stable. When we come into the action, we'll start with the knees down. So bring your weight forward over your hands. And the hand is not passive. You need to press into the fingertips to keep the weight out of your wrists. So you're pressing into the tips of the fingers and the roots of the fingers. And we lower the ribs just as far as you can. And then on the breath out, to lift back up. And you only want to lower as far as you feel you can maintain the shoulder stability and press back up. Only lower as far as you can maintain that shoulder stability and press back up. And you're just sitting back to release. And between each set, you can gently traction the wrists here, just to release through the wrists and shake them out. And now we come into our second set. And if you feel comfortable with doing so, you can come further forward onto your knees or into the plank position. But if you do use the full plank position, the pelvis and the torso should remain in line with the legs. We don't want the hips lifted up. And in this position, we've got a lot more weight into the arms, so you might want to take it a little bit smaller in range. Remember, the important thing is control, not how deep you go, but the control you exercise throughout. Lower your knees gently, come back up, tractioning the wrists, shaking them out. We take the last set into the roll up. So with the arms forward here, either on your knees or plank position, we lower as we breathe in, press up as you breathe out. Lower to come down, pressing out as you breathe out. Lowering as you come down, pressing up. Now, you can walk your hands back to your feet, allowing the knees to soften as you do so. Coming into how we started. We're rolling up through the spine. Here. And we're going to step forward and lower the back knee gently, turning the foot under and pressing that back hip forward. Just to feel the stretch through the front of the hips here. Keep the body lifted so that we allow the psoas muscle, the muscle that attaches across from the front of the thigh to the front of the lower back, to lengthen here. And then we change legs here into the long lunge, pressing forward. Do make sure you do have padding under your knee here. If your mat feels a little bit too thin, it's perfectly okay to add an additional pad under that knee. Just make sure you're not lifting your foot so that the weight goes into the joint. And from there, we're coming back to the hands and knee position. And once again, walking back to your feet. Rolling slowly up. And when you come back up to vertical, try and be aware of all the muscles we've been working. The muscles around the abdominal wall and the pelvis, the powerhouse muscles here. And controlling the alignment through the pelvis will help to control the alignment through the spine. And that's it. Thank you ever so much for joining us in this class, and we really look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye.